Sure.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Living Life Naturally podcast. And today I have Elena Lesser-Bruun. She is a doctor of education and a licensed marriage and family therapist who has decades of professional experience in several related fields. She maintains a private psychotherapy practice seeing individuals, couples, and families. So along with her practice, Elena spent 25 years in medical education administration, first at SUNY downstate, then as clinical associate professor of psychiatry and associate dean for student affairs at the NYU School of Medicine. So Elena's primary goal is to assist those struggling with relationship issues like poor communication, drifting apart, disagreements about in-laws, friends or raising children, infidelity, serious illness, separation, divorce, and the dynamics between adult children and their parents. So her background in career counseling is also handy for clients with work-related problems, dual career stress, or achieving better work-life balance. And her approach to sensitive and uncomfortable topics is her signature, using a humane and non-judgmental style to better uncover people's strengths, unrecognized needs, new or underutilized talents, and problem-solving abilities. And those who have crossed paths with her often cite her sense of humor and patience of Job as two of the sharpest tools in her skill box. Elena's non-traditional winding career path has a common thread that allows her to speak with authority about all kinds of relationships and relationship rifts, family, friendship, colleague, work, mentorship, and compatriot. So in several books, she reaches a plethora of audiences with titles like Marrying Well, Not on Speaking Terms, and written during the pandemic, Estranged. Her latest offering, Maxine Gets Her Vaccine, June of 2021, is a humorous yet important and perfectly timed book designed to help young children overcome their fear of getting the COVID-19 vaccine, and also signals Elena's children's literature debut. So welcome, so happy to have you here with us.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful summary. It can't be about me. Okay. I need to get rid of the sign that's covering our faces. There. Okay.
Okay, so I know a lot of women, when they get to that midlife phase, often come into this relationship crisis. The kids maybe leave home, go to college. Suddenly it's just the two of them left at home, and you realize just how little you have in common, or even taking it a bit further, you've got nothing in common. So can you speak to us a little bit today about how, when there are rifts like that, people can begin to get back to some kind of middle ground?
Very good question. I'm thinking of one case, one example of a couple that I don't personally know, but it was told to me about a friend, and you mentioned a couple of times finding common ground. This was a couple that got divorced in the midlife period, and they had almost no contact except when they had to around the children by court order. But I'm giving you a humorous example. The husband was a dentist, and his wife, even though they were divorced and essentially not speaking, she would only go to see him for her dental work. It's very, very,
Yes.
Go figure. You can't predict what a couple is going to do to find the way back, but you if there's a will on both their parts, and let's say they're not divorced, there is almost always a way. The requirement, absolute requirement, is that both partners want to explore the possibility, just explore the possibility of getting back together. It's repairing a rift is not a moment in time where you suddenly realize, or very rarely, because nothing is 100% when you're talking about relationships, but almost all the time, to repair a rift is a process. It takes time. It usually requires it to be successful that you go slowly, that you look for possibilities and think outside the box. And that's not easy when you're angry and upset and separated emotionally or physically in terms of where you live. So,
Well,
but it's possible.
And it's not easy, even if you're living with the person and you're mad with them.
Yes.
Or something has caused a rift. I mean, it's not easy to get past that rift because a lot of it takes humility, really.
It certainly does, and willingness to show some vulnerability too, and admit, for just as an example, that you miss talking to the person. I have a friend, this is a good one, I wish she were watching, who expanded and renovated their bathroom against her husband's wishes. And we're not talking here about divorce, but he didn't talk to her, she swears, for 3 months, except pass the salt, pass the sugar, that's it, or we need more coffee, something like that. They got over it, they got past it in their own way, so they didn't need the help of a therapist. But the strangest thing, I mean, in a way, it's not so strange. She didn't consult him about a very expensive thing, but she knew that he would say no, and he had said no. And she just went ahead anyway. Midlife decision. I'm a strong woman now. I've earned money. I'm going to renovate our bathroom. That was her, line in the sand.
And I think that that's really a great point, because so many of us, and I just had this conversation with a friend this morning, we tend to think when we're earners and we're contributors that it gives us, I wouldn't say the right, that's probably not the best word, but for something like that, well, I earn my own money, I should really be able to do what I want.
To some degree, yeah, to some degree, although men have a point too. They do, that how would she feel if he had done the same?
Right.
Right. So for me, I have to, as a family therapist, couple therapist, I have to take off sometimes my feminist women's advocate hat and put on my family therapist hat and see it from both people's point of view, especially because I have to help them find empathy for how the other one feels, right? That's the goal. If you have a rift, the ultimate goal is to bring the couple to the point, or they find a way to reach the point where they understand how the other one feels and empathize with it, care about it. And then a way forward comes out of that empathy. You just find it somehow. I can give another example if you like, of a younger woman with parents at midlife. So the daughter is about 28. She lives on her own, but she's been extremely close to her parents. And her parents are European, old-fashioned, very proper people. I had never met the father, but a crisis erupted because this young woman wants to be with her boyfriend, who had hurt her feelings and broken up with her in the past, but they're now back together, and she feels she's 28, she's an adult, and she is going to have her way. And the crisis came because her father declared that she now has to make a choice. It's us or them.
Mm.
Oh my God. So I get this on text from as the therapist of the girl, but I've met the parents, actually the mother, not the father. And he's the one making this declaration. The couple is at war because the mother doesn't want to lose her daughter. It's a crisis, and all of this is over virtual online work. So, but what happened was I had a 1 hour with the parents, and they were able to express how hurt they were, that this young man had never come to them and apologized for having hurt their daughter. There were all kinds of emotional upsets flying around that led up to this, it's us or them, or it's him or us. And very quick, I was very surprised. The father backed down, and he basically said, all I really want is for him to come and speak to me. I said that in a moment of anger and outrage, but I don't really mean that. I don't want my daughter to have to choose. He, in the end, was quite reasonable when he had a chance to talk about how he felt. And I understood that, right? The culture he came from, you don't oppose your parents. If they don't want, it doesn't matter if you're 55 and your husband, your parents are 85. You do what they tell you.
Funny how that works. And that really reminds me of another issue that we deal with in midlife and beyond. So very often nowadays, we've got midlifers dealing with elderly parents and, you know, sometimes taking them into the home, which can be a very difficult thing to face, you know, especially say if I was to take my mum and dad in, then, you know, I mean, I would be comfortable with them, not so much my husband's very gracious, but it can be a rift maker.
Absolutely, it can. Especially, say, if your husband was adamantly opposed and you had been brought up with the understanding, let's say your parents had bought your house for you. The understanding was that you would take them in when they could no longer care for themselves. And this happened before you met your husband, right? I can make it up, but it's happens every day. A rift over that. I can think of endless stories like that. Siblings who have a younger sibling who's challenged in some way and not capable of caring for themselves, and the parents expect the older child, to take care of the younger one when they're gone or incapable, and the younger one said, hey, wait a minute, I didn't sign on for this, and the person I want to marry cannot deal with that. So I can give you endless stories. What's also fascinating, I don't know if you want to talk about it at all, is something I discovered in the process of doing this book, which is there isn't just one kind of cutoff where one person says to another, well, that's it, I'm never talking to you again. There are innumerable types, and that fascinated me. So I can run through some of them if you want.
Yeah, sure.
Things you might be familiar with, but not put onto a list to see the array of possibilities. But I'd love sharing that.
Yeah.
So, okay, here we go. Yep. Okay, the most obvious one is I'm never speaking to you again, right? Goodbye. And people don't necessarily stick to that, as we all know. But a lesser version of it would be an emotional disconnection, like my friend with her husband in the bathroom. They were not in emotional connection. There was no meaning. Everything was superficial. Okay, and that can happen with a friend, with a boss, with a colleague, anybody. And then there's another one where you feel just a tension. There's some tension, you can't even name it, but you sense that the relationship is not in a good place. And sometimes that's just before a serious cutoff happens. Then there are partial cutoffs, say where a divorced couple will only speak, or separated couple only speak at occasions, celebrations, or funerals, or family events. They'll be polite, they'll be civil, they'll speak to each other, but they don't go out of their way to have a relationship. So that's one example, but there are others also. Oh, I love this one, where parents are good at this sometimes when it gets really bad. They talk through another person, right? Tell your dad to pass the butter. It's funny, but it's not funny because it causes such pain for children, right? And we interviewed about 20 therapists and got tons of stories. We also interviewed one family lawyer who told me about a case in which in his office, the parents would only speak through him. And that happens a lot as well. Better that way than asking the child to be the intermediary.
Right.
Yeah, so that would be, and then there are temporary cutoffs, and that's really the only kind. You know, every time we talk, we get so heated up, we don't accomplish anything. Let's just take a break. You see a lot of younger couples doing that, but midlife couples too. We're just tired of each other. Let's not try to fix anything. Let's just calm down and let's talk in a week, or let's meet in a week. Many times I've heard, you go to a hotel, this can be after an affair, say, you move out, or I'm going to move out, and we'll see where we are in 3 months or 6 months. And we're not going to be in touch to see how we feel about the relationship. But it's understood that it's a measure in the end to try to preserve the relationship by lowering the temperature. So there's that. And then here's another very common one, conditional cutoff. If you don't stop drinking or using drugs, I can't have a relationship with you. Or until you stop, I'm leaving. Right? There are movies about this. They're, fiction stories, but
Unknown caller.
oops, sorry. Turn this off. Those can be very powerful motivators, and sometimes it is said it is the only way that someone abusing alcohol or will stop if their partner is going to leave, if they don't. But so it's such an interesting thing to me that there are so many ways of coming apart and so many ways of coming back together too. So I'm almost done. Oh, this is a great one. I'm going to break up with him because I know he's going to break up with me. And I don't want to be seen as, I don't want to feel like the loser. And you might be wrong. So it's not the greatest idea.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I call that the preemptive cutoff. I'll leave you before you can leave me. And that's about it for now. I've been through, there are a couple more, but not as important.
So if you had a couple come in to see you, and of course we understand that for some people it can take quite a bit for them to go to a therapist and sit down and talk. Yes.
I have a fix for that. You want to hear?
Yes.
I've just come up with it recently. And I wrote a blog about it, but I haven't posted it yet. And it's called I'm Not a Therapist Anymore. I'm a consultant, right? Not a coach, I'm a consultant. You hire me, and if you don't like what I do, you fire me. I've done this with teenagers who love it. I had one girl who told all her friends, I have my own private consultant. And the other kids wanted to know who it was, and she wouldn't tell them. But it's just, and then I say, because it's true, it at its best, it's just a conversation. And there's no requirement that you change or do anything. You just acquire a team member who cares about what happens to you. And I know you know this, Lynn, I'm just saying it for the audience. You just have a chance to get some input from someone who's not over involved in your situation. That's it. And it may be good suggestions or not, or maybe you don't want suggestions. Maybe you want to come up with them just yourself. And sometimes, often, in fact, I think the answers, they already have the answer if you help them access it.
Right. Sometimes the hardest thing is actually getting it out there and saying how you feel in a neutral territory, as you say.
Yes, definitely. It's such a thrill, particularly with career counseling. I find when people say, I just hate my career, my job, I want to do something else, I have no idea. This is a midlife crisis issue too, not just relationships, but it's the relationship to work. And they will, I will ask them, well, what did you love to do when you were a kid? And you'll find it sometimes has absolutely nothing to do with what they're doing for a living. In fact, what they're doing every day is a killjoy. I have a client right now, and wish me luck, because I haven't been able to suggest this yet. I'm trying to think of a way, who is very depressed and doesn't want to do anything at all, except her mother told me that she exercises. This will be right up your alley, Lynn. She exercises 3 hours a day.
Wow.
She lives at home. She does eat. So, but it's an eating disorder in that she does enough exercise, so she still loses weight. And I thought to myself last night, as I was going to sleep, about advice given by a therapist, even older than me, who's still alive and working, I believe. And he wrote a letter to new therapists saying, invent a new therapy for every client. So I thought, okay, the one thing she's willing to do, although she's gifted and bright at so many things, the one thing she is still motivated to do is exercise. How can we build on that to bring her out of that depression? How can she feel strong for doing that and maybe helping someone else? So I began to think about it. I'm not there yet, but okay, start where the client is. Don't try to impose something. Just, maybe she can teach me a few things. I need to. We'll see. We'll see. How did we get on to that? That's fascinating.
So where can people find you?
Oh, that's easy. I have a website. It is called ELB, Elena, Lesser-Bruun, elbtherapy.com. And I also have a phone number. You can call me 917-494-9600. And if you just want a book and not to talk to me, you can use the website elbtherapy.com/books. And it'll take you right to that section.
Great, because that's some great resources for people.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that all lifelong, however long you're married or in a relationship, there are always times when you need extra help. And if people don't like to see people, but resources like you have can be very, very powerful.
Absolutely. It doesn't require a therapist. It requires just somehow opening yourself to whatever means you feel comfortable with. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you. We just barely even touched the surface on what relationships are about. So I appreciate it.
Well, you asked me some great questions, so you helped. Yes, but we could have used, another hour or two. That's so it's so often the way it is.
Yeah.
No.
Thank you so much for being on here with me today. I appreciate it.
A pleasure. Where are you located?
I'm actually located in Florida.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes. And you're in New York, right?
Yes, definitely. I've been to Florida, though. Quite a few.
I've been to New York.
Okay. All right. Okay. But I detect your English accent.
Yes.
So.
I'm originally from Coventry in England.
Okay. It's such a lovely accent.
Thanks.
It always sounds so professional. You could be reading the phone book and it would be beautiful. Okay. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Bye.